Welcome to this edition of Top Story. China says its territorial dispute with Japan has reached a new high. Tokyo has confirmed that it has taken 14 people into custody after they landed on the Senkaku Islands, known as Diaoyu in Chinese. The tensions flared on the anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. For more on this, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Armin Georgian. So, Armin, any signs of what Japan's going to do with these Chinese citizens in its custody?
Well, Japan has got to move pretty quickly because it remembers the diplomatic spat of 2010 when it kept a Chinese trawlerman in custody for 2 weeks, and that, of course, caused an outcry. He was kept, and so the Chinese cancelled business contracts, and Tokyo eventually gave in. But this time, Japan, with that example in mind, has got to basically either release these 14 people quickly or send them to court. Those are the two options. And of course, the second option would raise regional hackles to fever pitch, presumably, as the temperature between the two countries, between China and Japan, is already very high. Let's take a listen.
Diaoyu Island is China's territory. Japan must get out. Japan must get out from Diaoyu Island. It's China's territory. Japan must get out.
This was an illegal entry. They even alerted us beforehand, so it is a premeditated crime. They should be put on trial. Seriously. The Prime Minister should go to Senkaku Islands himself.
That man speaking just there was the mayor of Tokyo, Shintaro Ishihara, using very strong language, governor of Tokyo. Premeditated crime, he said. He's a very interesting character, actually. He wrote a book called The Japan That Can Say No. And so he's galvanized right-wing opinion in the blogosphere, in online videos, on tweets, the kind of opinions that mainstream politicians in Japan have shunned until now. But because he's come out with things that were not really politically correct, finally he's actually put pressure on more mainstream politicians to say that if Japan had been more forceful, it wouldn't be fighting these territorial claims on three fronts. And indeed, we can see in our map there, you've got Senkaku Diaoyu there in the south of our map, Rebecca, but also two others just west of Japan, between Japan and Korea, Dokdo Takeshima. Dokdo in Korean, these are also rocky outcrops, which those tensions flared last week with the Korean president visiting Dokdo. And thirdly, the Kuril Islands in the north, those are disputed between Japan and Russia. So now Mr. Ishihara's words ring truer to a lot of people. He's been arguing for a more forceful stance for many years.
Is this dispute then about history, or is it, as I suspect, about economic opportunities? Because a lot of these islands are near places where there could be potentially rich gas deposits.
Yeah, including Takeshima, including the first dispute, which is Senkaku Diaoyu, which is in a basin that could hold 20 million barrels of oil. Dokdo Takeshima, the Korean-Japanese dispute, that is not quite so clear in terms of natural resources, but it's great for fishing, as are the Kuril Islands north of Japan, the disputed islands between Japan and Russia. The Kurils also holding very interesting deposits of rhenium, which is used to make jet engines for planes, in addition to gold, silver, and some oil and gas. But in all three of these disputes, Rebecca, you've got a mix of economic opportunities and issues of history and memory and national pride. And of course, those have all come to the fore on this anniversary of the Japanese surrender in World War II.
Which is when those tensions fled. So who is the winner so far in these disputes? Is it possible to call?
It's not really possible to call, but if you look at the balance of power, I mean, obviously China does have the biggest military power in the region, and keeping Japan weak through this dispute with Diaoyu is arguably to China's benefit. It also benefits from the fact that Japan is fighting two other territorial disputes that are not to do with China. There's one with Korea, as I mentioned, and the other one with Russia, as I mentioned. So all that is good for China, which is really targeting major suspected deposits of oil and gas in the South China Sea. Those are disputed also by other nations, but at least in North Asia, it's got divisions within the US allies which don't like China's military power. So all that really is to China's growing benefit, I would say.
Thanks very much for your analysis, Armin Georgian, our international affairs editor. This brings us to the end of this edition of Top Story. Stay tuned to France 24.